It's a bird, it's a plane, it's an egg salad sandwich. No way. It's Captain Underpants. The Captain Underpants books were a huge part of my childhood. All the way from when I learned how to read to now. With classics like Wrath of the Wicked Wedgie Woman all the way to Captain Underpants and the invasion of the incredibly naughty cafeteria ladies from outer space and the subsequent assault of the equally evil lunchroom zombie nerds. So grab your tidy whities and superpower juice, cause we're gonna dive right into Dave Pilkey's wonderful world of wedgies, boogers, and talking toilets. But before I can tell you about those stories, I have to tell you about this one. Oh, and spoiler alert. First Captain Underpants came out in 1997. I had an original one from that time, but I have no idea where it is. This one though I got with a Scholastic double pack with talking toilets and maybe like 2006 or something? Anyways, meet George Beard and Harold Hutchins. George is the kid on the left with the tie and the flat top. Harold is the one on the right with the t-shirt and the bad haircut. Remember that now. George and Harold are two prankster kids that go to Jerome Horwitz Elementary School in Piqua, Ohio. They spend a lot of their time making comic books about a superhero they created called Captain Underpants. This truly resonated with me when I was a kid because just like them, I love to make books and comics and all sorts of goofy projects. Dave Pilkey shows George and Harold's comics in the books and they're full of spelling mistakes, bad grammar, and just exactly what you would expect if a 4th grader handed you a homemade book or drawing. George and Harold sell their comic books at school. At their school, you get introduced to Mr. Krupp, their mean principal. Mr. Krupp hates George and Harold and he starts scheming to get back at them for all the pranks that they do. One day very soon, Mr. Krupp catches them in the act of sabotaging a huge football game by setting up hidden cameras around the school so he blackmails them into doing chores and extra homework. George and Harold decide to buy a ring to hypnotize Mr. Krupp so he'll hand over the VHS tape that has them sabotaging the big game. Instead, George and Harold have Mr. Krupp do stupid stuff. They realize Mr. Krupp has every Captain Underpants issue, and they think it would be funny to turn him into Captain Underpants. They snap their fingers, and Mr. Krupp discards his toupee, takes all of his clothes off, and ties a curtain around his neck. And then Mr. Krupp jumps out the window to go fight crime. George and Harold panic and must go find Captain Underpants now. They look all over town, and they find him trying to stop bank robbers. George and Harold swoop in and get the still hypnotized Mr. Krupp out of there. But then 2 robots come crashing through a wall with rare gems. And up until that point, the story could have been believable. Captain Underpants gets whisked away by his cape and George and Harold must go rescue him. They find the bad guy's van outside of a warehouse and they peek in to see a man named Dr. Diaper holding Captain Underpants hostage. With some rubber doggy doo-doo and precise aim, George makes Dr. Diaper look like he pooped on the floor. So Dr. Diaper goes to change, while George and Harold sneak in to bash some robots with extremely graphic violence. This is with the art of Fliporama, a fun method of cheesy animation that would become relevant in a lot of Pilkey books, from Ricky Ricotta to Dogman to Super Diaper Baby. The way it works is that you place your left hand in the center here and your right thumb on the corner of the bottom right page and flip the 2 pages back and forth like so. Oh, and remember to add custom sound effects. Dr. Diaper returns after his robot army is pulverized and he threatens to shoot George and Harold and Captain Underpants. The gang of heroes sabotage Dr. Diaper's evil intention to take over the world while Captain Underpants shoots Dr. Diaper in the face with his underwear. And to make a long story short, they get away. George and Harold take Captain Underpants back to school and pour water on his head, and he turns back into Mr. Krupp. And with that, the story wraps up perfectly. But for some strange reason, anytime Mr. Krupp hears somebody snap their fingers, he turns back into, well, you know who. This book was absolutely hilarious to me when I first read it back in 2004. So many nostalgic memories with the series. I truly love Captain Underpants and I believe it encourages children to read. With that being said, let's get on to the sequels, and we're gonna keep the summary shorter this time around. Captain Underpants and the Attack of the Talking Toilets. Released in 1999, George and Harold ruin a big event that's called the Invention Convention. One of the inventions, designed by teacher's pet Melvin Sneedley, copies pictures and turns them into real-life breathing living things. George and Harold copy their latest comic, Captain Underpants and the Attack of the Talking Toilets, only for the toilets to come to life. Mr. Krupp gets turned into Captain Underpants again and he tries to fight them with the disgusting cafeteria food. Then the Turbo Toilet 2000 shows up and swallows Captain Underpants, so George and Harold copy a robot to beat him and fly him to Uranus. Captain Underpants and the invasion of the incredibly naughty cafeteria ladies from outer space and the subsequent assault of the equally evil lunchroom zombie nerds. Also released in 1999, alien cafeteria ladies turn students into zombie nerds. George and Harold must stop the invasion and restore order. Mr. Krupp turns back into Captain Underpants after an alien snaps their tentacle. Then an evil dandelion almost kills Captain Underpants, so the boys give him superpower juice that they find on the alien spaceship.
Oh no.
Captain Underpants is now a legitimate superhero. Oh no. Everything gets restored after Harold mixes some anti-zombie nerd juice with root beer. Captain Underpants and the Perilous Plot of Professor Poopypants. Released in 2000, a guy from a foreign country known as New Switzerland shows up with a funny name, Professor Poopypants. Everyone laughs at his name and he goes crazy. George and Harold must outsmart him and save the day while he changes everyone in the world's names. Comment below what your new name was that Professor Poopypants gave you. Mine was Lumpy Waffle Chunks. Captain Underpants and the Wrath of the Wicked Wedgie Woman.
Yeah, you already know who it is. It's the SoundCloud sensation, Anton, Nathan, and I'm just gonna start off by addressing the elephant in the room.
Hey, go back to my video.
Captain Underpants and the Wrath of the Wicked Wedgie Woman. Released in 2001, George and Harold's new comic creation, the Wedgie Woman, comes to life thanks to a 3D hypno ring. But first, their retiring teacher Ms. Ribble and their principal are set to marry each other due to a prank from George and Harold. They hypnotize Ms. Ribble into changing their grades after she freaks out on them for the big prank and lowers their grades from C's and D's to F's and G's. Except, Ms. Ribble does the opposite of what they hypnotize her to do. Chaos ensues as they try to stop her evil plans. Captain Underpants and the Big Bad Battle of the Bionic Booger Boy Part 1, The Night of the Nasty Nostril Nuggets. Released in 2003, Melvin Sneedley, the class genius, transforms into a giant booger after he sneezes while creating a new invention. George and Harold must find a way to separate him from the bionic machine and the boogers. Captain Underpants and the Big Bad Battle of the Bionic Booger Boy Part 2, The Revenge of the Ridiculous Robo-Boogers. Also released in 2003, Melvin Sneedley turns back into himself, but 3 evil boogers spawn and mutate off of him. Their names are Carl, Trixie, and Frankenbooger. After they separate the Bionic Booger Boy, Mr. Krupp and Melvin change bodies. After they separate again, Melvin gets Captain Underpants' superpowers. This just doesn't go right. Captain Underpants is now defenseless again and he has to fight the evil boogers. But with the help of vitamin C, I think he gets the job done. Captain Underpants and the preposterous plight of the purple potty people. My mic probably just popped a million times. Released in 2006, George and Harold are accidentally set to an alternate universe where everything is the opposite. In the alternate universe, they meet Evil George, Evil Harold, and Captain Blunderpants. Also, Melvin is stupid there and he's reading Frankenfart versus the Bionic Barf Bunnies from Diarrhea Land. Man, I wish that book was real. In the alternate universe, Evil George and Evil Harold actually spell correctly and use proper grammar with decent illustrations. In the end, they're defeated by George and Harold's grandparents, Boxer Boy, and Great Granny Girdle. But at the end, Professor Poopypants returns now with the name of Tippy Tinkletrousers. And this is where the series took a break for a few years. I remember being so pumped for book 9, but there was no guarantee of when it would come out. For the next 6 years, I would randomly check online to see if there was anything. And nothing. During that time, Dave Pilkey had been taking care of his sick father and didn't release a ton of books. He managed to release Super Diaper Baby 2 and Ook and Gluck, but then in 2012, out of nowhere, the terrifying return finally happened. Captain Underpants and the Terrifying Return of Tippy Tinkletrousers. This turned out to be one of the best books in the series. We go back in time to see how George and Harold meet, and also learn how they defeat bullies with the power of a ghost named Wedgie McGee. Tippy Tinkletrousers shows up and ruins the past by having Mr. Krupp removed from being hypnotized by George and Harold. Captain Underpants and the Revolting Revenge of the Radioactive Robo-Boxers. Released in 2013, it picks up right where the last book left off. This time there's like 3 Tippies all time traveling around. We go back in the time of cavemen and it's just absolutely hilarious. The universe gets created, the Ice Age happens, and the dinosaurs go extinct. This is a deep cut in the franchise. One of my favorite in the series. Captain Underpants and the Tyrannical Retaliation of the Turbo Toilet 2000. Released in 2014, the Turbo Toilet 2000 returns with a vengeance after a kickball from the Wrath of the Wicked Wedgie Woman hurls from the playground to Uranus and knocks the head off the robot they created in Attack of the Talking Toilets. Oh. And now there are 2 George and Harolds. Captain Underpants and the Sensational Saga of Sir Stinks-a-Lot, released in 2015, and the last book in the series. Mr. Meaner, the gym teacher, gets a hold of a smart piece of asteroid and eats it. Now he's super intelligent and comes up with a way to turn everyone into obedient slaves. He absorbs Captain Underpants and the hypnotizing spell, plus superpowers are drained from him. And that's where the series ends. With that being said, let's get to the spin-offs. Excluding Dogman because I've never read those, and that could be a whole other video if I do. Super Diaper Baby, released in 2002, is a book by George Beard and Harold Hutchins. The first time I picked this book up at the library, I was so amazed. But of course, actually, it's written and illustrated by Dave Pilkey. The book is presented as one of George and Harold's comic books, complete with colorful illustrations and a playful narrative style. And everything you'd expect by George and Harold. Misspellings, wrong words, phrases, grammatical issues. The protagonist, Super Diaper Baby, gains his extraordinary abilities after he's just born and falls out of the window into super power juice. This mishap transforms the baby into a superhero with powers like flight and super strength. A villain named Deputy Dangerous tries to steal steal the powers by zapping them via satellite, but instead zaps his diaper, causing him to turn into Deputy Doo-Doo. Deputy Doo-Doo's dog then changes sides and teams up with Super Diaper Baby to stop him. The book combines humor, silliness, and action, appealing to younger readers with its engaging narrative and comic book format. Super Diaper Baby series is particularly popular among the early readers for its accessible language, quirky characters, and amusing storyline. Ook and Gluck, released in 2010. The Adventures of Ook and Gluck is about two cavemen that go to the future. Why is this here? Well, it was written and illustrated by George and Harold. Yeah, it's definitely an oddball, but props to Dave Pilkey for experimenting. I remember seeing somebody reading it in 6th grade and going, that looks like something Dave Pilkey would have made. And it was. And then of course, I just naturally figured Captain Underpants 9 was on the way. No. But unfortunately, Ook and Gluck was banned in 2021, and they stopped distribution from Scholastic as it depicted passive racism and stereotypes with the Asian character who was a kung fu master named Mr. Wong, and depicted with slanted eyes and stereotypical tropes. Super Diaper Baby 2, The Invasion of the Potty Snatchers, was advertised a long time before it came out in 2011. It was even depicted advertised near the terrifying return of Tippy Tinkle Trousers, and it came out a year before it. This was Dave Pilkey's attempt to write about something other than poop. Pee! It follows an evil scientist named Dilbert Dinkle with a machine that turns things into water, and then he accidentally gets shot with it. Dave Pilkey said the inspiration here came from comics he made as a kid about a man made of water. After Dinkle gets drunk by his cat Petey, he gets pissed out, pissed off, and starts pissing on, becoming Rip Van Tinkle. Then one of my favorite moments in all of the toilet-themed Pilkey books. They do a parody of how the Grinch stole Christmas, except it's how the pea stole potties. Rip Van Tinkle steals everyone's toilets so they'll pee themselves. This is after they mistreated him for being stinky and getting pee everywhere. Super Diaper Baby and Diaper Dog must come to the rescue by freezing him and taking him up to Uranus. Don't know why there would be frozen pee on Uranus, but who am I to judge? And so, our journey through the wacky world of Captain Underpants and its spin-offs comes to an end, much like the epic battles fought by George and Harold and the superhero alter ego of Mr. Krupp. As we close the book on this nostalgic trip, we can't help but reflect on the laughter, the absurdity, and the sheer joy that Dave Pilkey's creations brought into our lives. The series started with the mischievous duo George and Harold inadvertently turning their grumpy principal, Mr. Krupp, into the legendary Captain Underpants. From battling talking toilets to thwarting evil scientists and time-traveling villains, each adventure was a roller coaster of laughter and excitement. The sequels continued to deliver the same level of hilarity and creativity, introducing us to characters like Professor Poopypants, the Turbo Toilet 2000, and the fearsome Sir Sinks-a-Lot. Flip-O-Rama added an interactive element, letting readers engage in the action-packed scenes with their own sound effects. And the comics presented to us filled us with joy. The hiatus before the terrifying return let fans eagerly anticipating the next chapter. When it finally arrived in 2012, the time-traveling chaos brought a fresh dose of entertainment, proving that the magic of Captain Underpants hadn't faded over the years. The other books, from the revolting revenge of the radioactive Roboboxers to the tyrannical retaliation of the Turbo Toilet 2000, continued to captivate readers with their silly humor and imaginative plots. And the sensational saga of Sir Stinks-a-Lot served as a fitting finale, wrapping up the series with a mix of nostalgia and a sense of closure. Spin-offs Super Diaper Baby and Ook and Gluck showcased Dave Pilkey's versatility and willingness to explore new storytelling avenues. While Ook and Gluck faced controversy, Super Diaper Baby maintained the series' signature humor and style. As we bid farewell to Captain Underpants and his hilarious escapades, we can't help but be grateful for the laughter, creativity, and lessons in friendship that these books provided. So here's to Dave Pilkey, George, Harold, and the mighty Captain Underpants. Thanks for the memories, the laughs, and the enduring legacy of a series that will forever hold a special place in our hearts. And remember, if you hear someone snap their fingers, be prepared for the unexpected return of, well, you know who. Wait, I forgot something. Something is missing. Something important. What could it be? Uh-oh. Here we go again. The Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, is an absolute riot. This animated gem brilliantly translates the hilarity of Dave Pilkey's iconic book series to the big screen. I'm not gonna lie, when it first came out, I absolutely hated it. The movie focuses on the first 4 books primarily, with nods to other ones. Villain is Professor Poopypants, Melvin creates the Turbo Toilet 2000, Edith is no longer Miss Anthrope, but now she's a cafeteria lady and Mr. Krupp's love interest, and Captain Underpants gets his powers by drinking green toxic toilet water. Which, how did he not turn back into Mr. Krupp in this scene? Anyway, I've grown to love the movie. If you go into it with no expectations, which is highly recommended, it's a fun dumb time. Following the cheeky escapades of George and Harold, the film takes us on a wild ride as they accidentally transform their grumpy principal, Mr. Krupp, into the world's greatest superhero, Captain Underpants. The animation is vibrant, and the voice cast, led by Kevin Hart, Terry from Solar Opposites, and Ed Helms, brings an infectious energy to the characters. Overflowing with clever wordplay, absurd humor, and genuine love for the source material, this movie is a nostalgic treat for fans of all ages. It's a laugh-out-loud all-out adventure that perfectly captures the spirit of the beloved books. It does raise the question why they waited until 2017 to release a Captain Underpants movie, and will there be more? And I love the deep cuts and references for the hardcore, old school, and new fans. From Weird Al doing the Captain Underpants theme song to George and Harold's comics. This movie also does something... Oh, shit. The movie also does something different with Mr. Krupp. In a heartwarming twist, Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, adds depth to the character of Mr. Krupp, giving him a touch of humanity that enriches the narrative. When Mr. Krupp finds love, there's a noticeable transformation in his demeanor. The once grumpy principal becomes remarkably kinder, especially towards George and Harold. As their newfound friendship blossoms, Mr. Krupp not only softens his stern attitude, but also embraces the humor in the boys' comic books, calling them genuinely funny. This unexpected character development adds a touching layer to the film, showcasing the power of connection and love in bringing out the best, even in the most unlikely of characters. It's just a small element that adds emotional resonance to the laughter-filled storyline. The extra crunchy books of fun. So I ordered these extra crunchy books of fun off of eBay for this review. Was I expecting them to be used? Absolutely. I wish I still had mine. I still remember getting them as a kid. I got the second one first and left it outside, and someone ran it over with a lawnmower. I was crushed. The book was shredded. The first one, the one I got second, I dropped in the bathtub. Then I got them again and I have no idea where they'd be at all. So here's some random kids' extra crunchy books of fun. Aren't they great? With the idea of being used in mind, I decided to order a brand new one. This book combines both 1 and 2 and puts them in full color. These books show you how to make comics, have written jokes, and fun activities, plus a character that really only appears in the extra crunchy books of fun, Harry Potty. And there's also funny jokes like, why did Tigger stick his head in the toilet? Because he was looking for poo. Because he was looking for poo.
That doesn't make sense.
Yes, it does.
Not really.
Okay, fine, you're right, whatever.
Dogman. Okay, I lied. When I bought the books of fun on eBay, they were having a sale on all books, buy 3 get 3 free, and I decided to get the first 2 issues of Dogman. And to my surprise, as a grown man reading Dogman, it was kind of fun. I only read the first one, but it was in color, simplistic in design, and written by George and Harold. This time around, the spelling and grammar is usually perfect. I can imagine, thanks to people.
The joke about Tigger didn't make any sense, and you're a failure in life.
This time around, the spelling and grammar is usually perfect. I can imagine, thanks to people complaining enough to Scholastic. Ah man, some kid scribbled all over this one. It's crazy to still be reading books by George and Harold. The first Dogman feels like an anthology of random stories starring the world's greatest cop. It's a story about a dog and a cop that get blown up by a cat and then surgically altered. The cat is Petey, the world's most evilest cat, the same from Super Diaper Baby 2. The stories are goofy and they make zero to little sense, the fliporamas are excellent, and the humor is funny without always having to resort to poo-poo and pee jokes. My favorite part of this book was the small references to Big Dog and Little Dog and to the Halloweener. With that being said, now I'm done with George, Harold, and Captain Underpants, and I think we can redo this conclusion. And so, our journey through the wacky world of Captain Underpants and its spin-offs comes to an end. Much like the epic battles fought by George, Harold, and... Wait. Let's just cut this conclusion short. I gotta start working on the next video.